The circle is one of the most used shapes for like construction of art, as there's a lot of stuff in real life that has circles in it. Like this. This is a circle, and you can imagine how this head is shaped like a circle, but you can uh, use the circle as a solid, like a building block. The building block is exactly a cubic block, square on all sides. So that helps you measure, helps you contain shape. So when you use it, you know what the perfect circle is, so then you can use what you know of a perfect circle. Like you imagine this flashing ring around here. You imagine that ring, that circle. Then you just cut off the perfect circle to make this face, because you can see that this face is going off like this. It starts a little bit here and gets farther in and farther in, and then comes in pretty far on the sides. And the same way over here, you just gradually get up to a part of it, and then it's a little bit through here's kind of straight, and you just work with that, because knowing this perfect shape makes the trimming to make this other perfect shape perfect. So your shapes are actually better because of it, because you're using a perfect circle to build this perfect shape of what you see. Sort of like a cushion. And how you use the perfect circles is what is how, try to imagine and try to learn what the perfect circle looks like so you recognize it, and then see it in different things, like this face right here. It don't have to be just one perfect circle. It could be two. Like you select a circle, and I'm holding shift. So you say that this top half, that's a perfect circle. And then you lower it and fill in this other area to make a perfect circle. So you have two perfect circles, and you know how far apart they are. It's sort of like this far apart. It's like 3/4 above, and I fill it. So you have two perfect circles. You have a shape that's closer to it, and then you know where to trim. Like you imagine the perfect circle, and you see that the chin is not a perfect circle. That's like a defect in the circle. So you have to trim that out. And by doing that, you're using the perfect shape to make the own version of a perfect shape. And that creates this shape perfectly, because you use a solid tool or a shape that you know that it's not changing. It's perfect all around. The circle is not too wide, not too tall, not crooked in this one corner and stuff like that. But in this picture right here, if you know the perfect circle to base it on, you can see that this is not part of a perfect circle. And because you know the perfect circle, you can see where this is different, where this is wrong. Like this needs to be like this before it can be a perfect circle. right here. And you know you need to add that to make it a perfect circle. So you also know that you need to trim that much because that is not part of the perfect circle. This is not a perfect circle. So you trim what is wrong with it to make it the same. Sort of like a brick. A brick is shaped in a long thing, but you can't really tell whether you're right about a brick because the brick is elongated, but a perfect square is easy to see because it's equal on all sides. That's a perfect square. So if you have something that's square or rectangle, you can see like this side is over here and you're looking at a phone and it's not a perfect circle. It's like this, but it's also there, and then you add another 3/4 on it, like 3/4 of the shape. You add more to it, and that's how big that phone is, or whatever, or tablet. So you go by solid shapes that's actually perfect sides all around. And a circle, that's hold shift and make the circle like this. And that keeps the proportions right. It's equal proportions. That makes a perfect circle. And in order to use the perfect circle, your mind has to know what it is exactly. Like when you see a perfect circle, you see it's a perfect circle. You see a ball is perfectly shaped. Or you can see a ball that's perfectly shaped has a little bump in it. And that's wrong, but nobody else can see it because they don't know what a perfect circle looks like. So they can't see where it's off. So when you create something, you can do like the perfect circle of a ball and you see one side got the valve on it and it's a lump there. You can copy that and people say, that's it. They know that's it, but they don't know how to get it. So you have to have this perfect circle in your mind, and that helps. So this is a perfect circle. And I'm going to try to not use this, but make my own. Because if you can't draw a perfect circle, at least get it to where it's perfect in a circle, then you can't really use it for a solid thing that's like in your mind. You know, that this is a perfect circle. You know that's a perfect circle. But in order to know why it's a perfect circle and where it could be off just a little bit, you have to know how to make a perfect circle. So I'm going to change to a gray here. And I got it 5 pixels because my canvas size is pretty big. So now I'm going to try to draw a perfect circle. It's going to be screwed up and stuff, but I'm pretty sure, let's see, I'm going to undo that because I like start on the left side. I want to draw the circle around on or from the left side here. I'm right-handed, so that's the way I work. It's easier for me to work that way. So now I'm going to try to draw the perfect circle I'm imagining. And see where I can see where it's going off. Like this is too short. I need it to be longer because this curve here is already starting to be wrong. And then you bring it around This is a short, too short. But working at it, and I'm going to see like this. Okay. So I'm actually moving better, but that's not the point. See, the point is that I can see where it's wrong. And since I'm zoomed out, it's harder to do a perfect circle. And I'm kind of lopsided because this side's sticking out farther than this side. So it's not really equal. So get a bigger brush and trim it. Edit, undo. Apparently, I just drew that on to the black. So I'll have to work with the black to get it to fix it. Let's see. I'll go in here to channels. Okay, pick one of these, select it. No pixels selected. Oh, let's see. Image, adjust, brightness and contrast. Now that it's white, it should be able to select it. So I don't want to lose it. So now, see when I was doing this, I use control. I select the color, which is RGB, but it's just going to select the only white area. And that's sort of like why I'm using this. You can see this circle is pretty good. And I'll just move this down here and fill it. Edit, fill. And then fill that back up with black. And let's see. There. Now we're back to where it was. So now I'm going to check it to see how close I am. And a good way to check a circle is to use this to go from corner to corner or side to side. That way you can know where this point is where you have to start. Then you change it to the circle, click to remove that corner, and that's click to hold it, and then hold shift and drag it to the other side until it fills out. And here you see that my idea of a perfect circle is pretty good. And so you can improve it. So I told you that said that this right here is sticking out too far and I was going to trim it. It shows right here that I was right. This is sticking out too far. And eventually I would work on all the tiny details to get this to be a perfect circle. So just working at it and improving it. Oops, wrong one. Helps me get this right. And this is a soft brush. There, that's better. So when you work on it, you just get finer and finer into the details. Oops. So I can see here and I can zoom in and work on it at a closer look. And my idea of this perfect circle, where it's not got to be curved right because of the size of it, I can zoom in and do better to improve it. And then I can see where I might be off. Eh, See right there, it looks like that's too much. I could be wrong, but I'm trying to improve what I see as a perfect circle, not what the perfect circle is. And I can hold shift and help me draw better. See, I'm clicking all around to go around and make the line actually make the line better going around it. So I'm getting the perfect circle and helping myself with the line with the shift key. And then I go over it with white since I'm using the darker color. That way that where I think the perfect circle is would be bolder. This don't look like it's out far enough. Go out a little bit more. So my idea of what the perfect circle is might be a little bit short. A short version of a circle. That means that I need to get better. And this definitely don't look right here. Need to trim this. And my idea of perfect circle just might be a little bit too tall or too short. So when I do the eraser, I can do the same thing with the shift key and just use shift to help erase like this. Click around. Because it's not ability, we're not learning the ability to draw. We can be all messed up, but what we need is that perfect circle image in our mind to what is a perfect circle. Our ability to make it is different. That's not the same thing. So, yep, this circle just looks too wide, and I can adjust that. Oops. Had to put more clicks in it to keep from drawing lines too straight. I'm doing this free-handed. But if I make one mistake, I'll have to start over from where I started erasing. or I can fix it. Okay, now I'm going to zoom out. This don't look right here. It's like this is lumped out too far. Kind of like if I had to select it and pull it back, I could probably do that and push this in. Free transform. So that pushes that circle in a little bit right there. So now I have this part just looks like it's too short across the top. Might want to pull that up a little bit. There, that looks a little more like a perfect circle to me. Now we find out if it's a perfect circle. See how good I am. And if I need to improve some more, because my idea of the perfect circle is a little off, like too tall, too wide. Some bumps I don't notice. So now let's find out. Ah, that's pretty good. See? Of course, this is a little bit wider, and right here, I went out farther here. Select it again. I think it's just a matter of selection in it, where it should be. This to there. Okay, then. Now, see if I get it right. And that's a little over, so I'll just shift it over a little bit. There. So I get the width right, but I'm off in these sides. These corners are out farther. That's my problem. See, I go off into the corners too far. Trying to make the circle a little more square so I can improve. I'll go and select this. Remove that. So I need to improve better to get the perfect circle, because my perfect circle is high on this corner over here more than anything. I imagine this side needs to be curved more when it doesn't, more than it should. So my idea of the perfect circle is a little off. And when you're working on your perfect circle, you can get it to where you can see it is improving. And when you can see where the perfect circle should be, and you're right, then you have something solid. You know what a perfect circle looks like. You can imagine a perfect circle in there, and you can use that perfect circle to help you make the right shapes, where an orange is not exactly perfectly round. It might be oblong, might be have nipples on each end, and you could have anything. Just like an apple is tall or round, sort of on top, a little bit of flat here, and then down here on the bottom it comes out to more of a point, and the sides are sloped around here. So you use the perfect circle, to help you make perfect shapes. Like the apple is not a perfect circle, but you know why the apple is not perfect. You know a pear is not perfect. It's big ball around here, and then it got a little hump through here, like a little mountain on a planet, or a big mountain on a planet. So that's how you work. You have to have like tools in your mind, like a perfect circle, or recognize where a perfect triangle is, and imagine like imagine a perfect triangle inside of a circle or something like that. And that looks more like a perfect triangle, even though it's not in this perfect circle the right way. But this gives me the lengths. Now, if I was to take this and draw a line on a new layer, just so that I have the length. I have the length right there. Now I can use it, edit, free transform, and see if this measures the same. Well, we know this is going to do, because it's sort of the right, and there it is. That's that way. Now we're going to do the horizontal line, and I might be a little bit different because, well, nope, I'm pretty close to that too. So I can see where this circle, I was drawing this triangle, and I can see that I needed to stop here, because the length would be wrong. So I did this and made it short here because the length wouldn't have been right. So I would be right about having the perfect triangle. And I can erase that part. So it's inside, and if I move this around, like select it, and then move it to where it's centered in here. Then you can see that it's not lopsided, it's a perfect triangle. It's just that it wasn't big enough to fit in the circle. So that's how you make perfect shapes. It's not just to make the perfect shapes, it's to recognize where any shape doesn't feel a perfect shape and why it's off, what the problem is. Like, is there a bump on it that needs to be done, or is it a cut that needs to be trimmed? But you work with a perfect shape, so you have something solid to work with. Because right now, if you notice the shape of the face, you might think, oh, this is a perfect circle, and you just draw this shape of the face, and then you realize that, no, this is too wide. This is not a perfect circle. So you base what you know off of things like this, and you build on it. You have to know what a perfect circle looks like, and if you use it for the face, like right here is the top of the forehead, and I draw this perfect circle at the same height, then move it over. There's the perfect circle. And if I use it for a narrow face, it might be more work. Or I can fill it. And then make it free transform. And make it not as wide. Right there, I moved it in because this distance is about the same as that distance, and then I move this over. So having percentages in your mind can also help you with faces and shapes. You know that when you know the perfect circle, you can say, well, this distance right here going across, I'll draw a line and make it black so I can see. Okay, draw a line from here to here, or across there. Okay, now this line, I think it's about 3/4 the distance of the length. So I free transform and rotate it and find out if I'm right. Could be more like 2/3, but I think it's closer to 3/4. Okay, there's right there is showing that it's a little bit more than 3/4 because this is that much more. So I can tell that if I do this, move this block here, that it's a little more than 3/4. Make sure that, okay, there. That's how much more could go. So I do it here, and that's right there between the eyes, and move this up to where it's there. And it was right there. So it was a little, probably not as much as 3/4. Just try to keep my eyes where I measure it. So that's close to 3/4 right there. The 3/4, the height. That's basically how you do it. Because your eyes have to know measurement. And you get that from using the grid. The grid would tell you, like, this is like a block. The grid would say, this is a block. And it's a perfect block. I'm holding shift. So I'm holding shift and I say, well, and I'm going to do a stroke to draw a perfect block. Edit, free transform. I don't think I stroked it. Oh, it's okay. There. So there's a perfect square. Now remove all this. That's a perfect square. So my imagination is saying that this is 3/4 wide of this length right here. Its width is 3/4 of the height. Because I'm measuring it with my eyes. And I use it from blocks because when you're going through blocks and you're drawing a line, you say, well, it comes through here around 3/4 of this line, and it goes out at about 2/3 right here. The line goes through this block right here, and you're using a percentage to measure this side, 3/4 to about 2/3. 2/3 might be closer to this. Anyway, you measure it by your eyes to see what the percentage of each block. So while you're using grid, you're learning measurements, and with thousands of little blocks in there, you learn quicker, easier, because if you can't measure it, you get down to like half a block. Well, I got this coming up here through half a block, and then this other side, it comes out to the other side, it's a half a block. So that's a perfect angle going through half here, half there. So that's how you measure. That's what the grid helps you do. And when you're doing that, you're pretty much learning measurements. So knowing the perfect circle, and draw a perfect circle in here. Yeah, it disappeared. I didn't see it. Doing the perfect circle in here, you're going from corner to corner. And add another line for stroke. So remove these lines. So you got, this is like a block, except it's in a circle shape. It's perfect. Just like the block is perfectly square, this has got perfect sides. So this is a perfect circle. And instead of using blocks, you use a circle, and you imagine the circle. And you use the same mathematics you learn from grids. So now you look at the face now and you imagine, oh, that looks like a perfect circle. Look at his hair. It just curves around right there. And you can see how right you are or how wrong you are. See, that hair kind of follows the circle. You can see that right there. So it helps strengthen your idea of what the perfect circle is. You see the circle in there. So that's all to work with the perfect circles and perfect shapes, because you have to have one perfect shape in your mind to work with. It could be a square. That would be a perfect circle because it has all equal sides. It's a perfect shape because it's perfectly round. It's just as high, wide, and it measurements from any angle is all the same. So that's perfect circle, perfect square, triangle. It's perfect. So whenever you need something and you imagine it, like if it was the breast, is be like from the side of this eye to the other side of this eye to the top of the forehead and then down again. And you can imagine that is like a perfect triangle. So you use that to measure with, and you can use it to use for like setting things in place. Like this mouth, that's crooked, that's not straight. And let me get this. Oh yeah, I see why it wouldn't do it. See this is not straight. It's crooked. You can spot things like that just because you know what perfect is, and you build everything on imperfections and make your perfect copy because you're using things that most artists don't see, but that's basically what you learn to get things to measure with your eyes, use the tools like a compass, you use the compass, and the compass puts the point in the middle and draws a circle around the sides because you spin it around. Those are tools, and it's in digital art, they might have to be invisible, but when you see real life, you can imagine this in the real world. Like if you're shooting on a pool table and you see perfect bank shots, angles, and stuff, you can actually see lines on the pool table of how the ball will travel. It's all those things in your mind that helps you see perfect shapes just so you can compare what's supposed to be and use that to help you put things in place and get shapes perfect. I'm probably getting you to talking too much, so I guess I'll leave it at that. And you can see how it'll improve your art because when you see the shapes are not perfect, you can make them perfect, or you can make them imperfect because they're like a circle and there's something that looks like in the shape that causes it to look like it's wrong. Like something in the shape tells you that there's like this thing, it's like right here, it's be the perfect shape, like a coin sitting on something, and something is covering this corner and it got cut off. So your idea of this perfect shape helps you make that. So you draw that defect after you draw the circle. You draw the circle and it's the circle. You've got it, you imagine it right because you follow the circle in your mind until you get it to be a perfect circle. And then you cut off where this was in real life so that that perfect circle is the same as what you see. It's cut off. Or it could be added, like a nose added on that's not really formed right. So it's all these little things like little bumps here. This bump, the eyebrow come up. And the chin coming down. And this nose coming in for the lips. And when you're done with all these things that's not right about the circle, all these defects, you end up with using that shape to create a better shape, something that matches what you see. You just have a shape you can work with. So that's basically why and how you make perfect circle. It's not because you need the perfect circle to draw it. You need to be able to know what it looks like. It doesn't have nothing to do with your skill. It just has a lot to do with that circle that's in your mind that says, "Oh no, this is not perfect. It's got this missing spot in it." But as long as you know the perfect circle, like if you don't know the perfect circle and you're drawing like, "Oh, my perfect circle's that," edit, fill, and you think that's a perfect circle, like it's going to be perfect circle. And then you say, well, this is missing. It's in the curved off spot. And then you're not getting the shape the way it is because you don't see it right. You need to see the perfect circle to make a perfect circle to use and work with. And you can use that to do whatever you need to go less, more, or whatever. So I guess that's it.